Hey you guys, welcome back to another video. If you guys are new here, don't forget to like and subscribe and turn on your post notifications so you never miss a video. If you guys are cooking along with me, get in the kitchen, get up and let's go. And if you're just watching, go ahead and grab a snack because I guarantee you that you're gonna get hungry. Now I just add to some boiling water. I didn't add any salt or anything. I just let those boil until they get soft. And now I'm just taking my chuck roast. I got this one from Sprouts. It was the prime chuck roast. And I'm just going to season that up. I add some olive oil, some Worcestershire sauce. And then I'm going to go ahead and add in some cumin. For each item, I did about, I want to say like 1 teaspoon. And now I'm going to go ahead and add in some mixed spice. I sped the video up because I was taking about probably 10 seconds in between each seasoning. So I just sped it up for you guys a bit. I went in with some Mrs.Dash, some clove powder. Not too much on this one because this is really strong. And if you don't like cloves, then you can skip that one. I added some black pepper, some garlic powder. I meant to use onion powder, but I was all out. So if you guys do have onion powder, I would suggest using it. I added some smoked paprika and some complete seasoning. And I'm just making sure that I try to like sprinkle that on the bowl that I'm using as well, just so that I could pick that up and put it on the underside as well. Then I'm going to go ahead and add in just a little bit of adobo to that. Nothing too crazy. And I'm going to go ahead and add in some chili powder, you guys. I can't talk today. I added a little bit more olive oil to that, and I'm just going in with my hands here and just massaging in all of that seasoning. You want to make sure that you're getting it in between each little crack that the meat has. Make sure, don't be afraid, like really get into it, massage it in, you know, it helps that meat to get like a little bit more tender. Really just press your hands into that and just get the seasoning everywhere. If you guys do need a little bit more olive oil to help you move the seasonings around, do so. And then I would recommend letting it sit in the fridge overnight if you can. If not, 2 hours would be okay. Now to a hot pan, I'm just adding in my my chuck roast here. And what I'm just doing here, I just want to sear it off to get like a nice crust on the top. I feel like this helps me get my pot roast a lot tender. You can skip this step if you want to, but this is the way that I do it. So I just get like a little sear to the top of that and I flip it over. My pan here, I had some olive oil and I just had it on high heat. And then once I took that out, I just put it straight into the crock pot bowl. Now I'm going to go ahead and add in about 1/4 cup of flour to that oil. And this is just going to help the gravy inside of the pot roast. It's just going to help it be a little bit more thick. And I'm just going to cut off that flour a little bit. And I'm going to go ahead and add in 1 bottle of beef stock. Now, I added in half of the bottle first. And then I whisked it up to get everything combined. And then once everything was nicely mixed, I went ahead and I added in the rest of that beef stock to the pan. If you guys don't like beef stock, because I know some people don't, you could just use water. Or you could even try chicken stock. I've done this with chicken stock before. It tastes literally the same. Now I'm gonna go ahead and add in 1 big teaspoonful of minced fresh garlic. I minced up my garlic for the week and then I just put it inside of a jar. Now I'm gonna go ahead and add in some thyme, about 4 bay leaves, and I just minced up 1 whole onion. And I'm just going to add that to the pan here. And I'm just going to let it cook off a little bit. Right now, my heat was on medium to high. And I'm just adding in about 1 teaspoon of the beef bouillon. And then I'm just going to let that cook off a bit like this. I'm going to go ahead and add in about 1 teaspoon of the Worcestershire sauce. And then I'm gonna go ahead and add 1/4 cup of red wine to that. You can skip the wine, it's optional. I just like how the red wine brings out the meat for me. Now I add in some baby carrots and some chopped up celery. After I washed them, I just added it into the pot right here, and I just let that cook for about probably like 8 minutes or so. And now I'm gonna pour that over our steak here, and I'm just gonna cover that up. I had my crock pot on high, and I let that cook for about 6 hours. So I did that part. I did the part with the pot roast from way up in the day. Next up, I'm going to take my washed greens here. I wash my greens with a bit of vinegar and some salt in the water, and I just wash it up really, really nice. Throw it out and then pour it into my Instapot. I am going to be pressure cooking my greens. This is the way that I like to do them personally. I feel like I get the best results when I do this. Usually I would use a smoked turkey leg, but they were all out of turkey legs at the store, so I'm going to be using smoked turkey necks today. But if you really like a lot of meat inside of your collard greens, then I would recommend using the turkey leg. And with the turkey leg, I literally just throw it in there. Sometimes it's too big for the pot, so I would just trim the meat off and then I would just add it in there. Now I added in 1 bottle of chicken stock. I added in 3 cloves of garlic, 2 bay leaves, some thyme, and I added in some complete seasoning. Sorry, I can't talk today, guys. And then I'm gonna go ahead and add in some mixed spice. My mixed spice is literally just like clove, cumin, a couple other stuff. Honestly, it's literally just like all of those like brown spices. Then I added in some cayenne pepper because I like a little spiciness to my greens, and I go ahead and add in 1 chicken cube to start. Now I just cover up my Instapot here, and I'm gonna go ahead and hit on the pressure cook option. I leave it cook on high for about 40 minutes here. Now once my sweet potatoes have finished cooked and they're nice and soft, I throw them in my mixer, and I'm just gonna mix them up till it's like almost like a baby food puree type of texture. You want it to be nice and chunk free like that, because you don't want to have any chunks inside of the cornbread. Now that's how it looks. I'm gonna go ahead and add in 4 medium-sized eggs, and I just mix it until that combines. After each addition, I scrape the bowl, and now I'm gonna go ahead and add in 2 teaspoons of vanilla. And then I stopped it.
And then I added in 2 teaspoons of cinnamon and then 1/2 teaspoon of nutmeg. I ended up adding in more cinnamon because I wanted to go for like that candied yam type of taste inside of my cornbread. But if you don't want to, you don't have to add some more. Now I'm going to go ahead and add in 1/2 cup of oil. I use vegetable, and I use 2 sticks of unsalted butter. And I just let that mix until everything is combined again. Next, I'm going to go ahead and add in 2.5 cups of buttermilk. If you don't have buttermilk inside of your fridge, what you can do is you can just pour in 1 tablespoon of vinegar into some regular milk, and there you have buttermilk. So I'm just going to pour that in here. And next I'm going to go ahead and add in 1 cup of brown sugar and 1/2 cup of white sugar. Like I said, I was going for like that candy yam vibe, so I did want it to be, you know, like just a little bit sweet. And now for my dry ingredients, I'm going to go ahead and add in 2 cups of flour. And then I'm going to start doing 1.5 cups of cornmeal. I'm going to go ahead and add 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, and 2 teaspoons of baking powder. And then I'm gonna just take my little whisk and I'm just gonna whisk everything up and just make sure that everything is nicely incorporated in here. And I don't believe I got a clip of it. I think I forgot to. But I did end up adding about half a teaspoon of orange food coloring inside of the mix as well, just to give it a brighter orange color. And now I'm going to adding my dry ingredients to the wet mixture, and I'm just going to do it in 2 parts. So I'm just going to pour in the first half, let it combine a little bit, and then I'm going to go ahead and pour in the second half. And I just keep mixing it until it looks mostly incorporated and most of the lumps are out. I did stop it when it reached to about this point right here. I'm gonna end up stopping it, and I took my spatula and I just made sure that I just scraped up the bottom, and I just folded in the rest if I had any extra to the bottom. Now I like to use my butter Pam to spray my pans. If you don't have Pam spray, you can always just use a stick of butter to coat that as well. Now I'm just gonna go ahead and pour in my mixture here. After I poured it in, I just tapped it on top of the counter, and I'm gonna go ahead and add it into my oven at 375 degrees for about 1 hour. If you do need more time, go ahead and add 5 minutes at a time until the stick comes out clear. Next up, I boiled some hot water, and I'm just gonna add in my chopped up potatoes there, and that's for the mashed potatoes. I'm checking on the greens now. The 40 minutes have passed, so now I'm gonna go ahead and add in 2 tablespoons of butter. And I just taste the greens just to make sure that they have, you know, the right amount of seasoning that I needed. I wanted some more spice in there, so I ended up adding some more cayenne pepper to that. If you don't have cayenne pepper, you can go ahead and add in hot sauce, but just be careful with the hot sauce because that is going to add a little bit of salt to that as well. I needed a little bit more salt in there, so I did go ahead and I added in some adobo powder, and then I'm just going to give it a nice mix, and I'm going to put it back on to pressure cook for about 12 more minutes. Next up, my cornbread was finished, so I just pulled it out the oven and I let it cool for the meanwhile. My mashed potatoes had finished here. I poured out the water, and now I'm just taking my time and mashing them up. This is why I mashed them. This is why I boiled them, till they're really soft, because it makes it a lot easier to mash. I'm just taking my time here and getting all around the pot because I hate clumps in my mashed potatoes, so I really do take my time with this part. I'm going to go ahead and add in half a stick of butter, about 1/4 cup of heavy cream to begin with. I add in 1/4 cup of sour cream, and then I just add in a handful of cheese and a handful of Parmesan cheese. This is completely optional if you don't want the cheese, but this is how I like to do my mashed potatoes here. And I'm just going to take that masher and go ahead and keep on mashing that up while still mixing in the ingredients. Now that I have everything mashed up, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add some fresh chopped parsley. I did add in some seasonings in there. I want you guys to season to taste because everyone likes their mashed potatoes differently. And I did go ahead and I add in, I want to say about 2 more tablespoons of heavy cream to that because I like my mashed potatoes really nice and creamy. Next up, my greens were finished, so this was the finished product right here, you guys. These were the neck bones. They kind of got shredded up into the pot. If you guys want to take off that excess meat and throw away the bones, you can. I just left it in there. Next up, I'm going to go ahead and make that little, caramel topping for our cornbread, the little honey brown sugar topping. This is the best part for me. I started off with 1 stick of unsalted butter, and I went ahead and added half a cup of brown sugar to that. Like I said, I was going for more of like a candied yam cornbread, So I added in some cinnamon to that. I want to say about 1 teaspoon. And I ended up adding in about 6 ounces of honey. I ended up using 2 of these bottles that I had like half in each one. Almost half in each one. And it came up to about 6 ounces. And I let that boil up a bit. And you're basically it's gonna look like caramel sauce, basically. Like, it's it's gonna be a little bit like more runny than caramel, but it's gonna look like caramel because it's gonna set almost like caramel too. Now I'm gonna just take the spoon that I have here, and I'm just gonna use that, mix it around. And this is what you're looking for when you use your spoon, to make sure that all the sugar crystals have melted and everything is nice and clear. I turn off the heat and I continue mixing it until all the bubbles have disappeared like this. And that was the texture right there. And now I'm gonna go ahead and pour that over my cornbread. You guys, you want to do this when it's still, when the glaze is still hot, because when it starts to cool, it's gonna start to set. Now I'm gonna go ahead and take my little spatula and just spread it all around here. You guys can see that this sets kind of really quick. Like I said, it's basically like a caramel sauce. So just make sure that you're moving really quickly with this part. I recommend just having all your utensils next to you, and that'll help you go a lot faster. And this was the finished product here for the cornbread. It was so delicious, you guys, and my boyfriend went crazy over this, okay? He went absolutely berserk, okay? So my phone did end up dying after this, but after everything was finished, it was about 6 hours into the pot roast, and everything was nice and soft. I did check it to make sure that it had some seasoning in there. I went ahead and I added a little bit more beef bouillon, about 1 teaspoon, and everything was perfect. And I did go ahead and also I added in some potatoes to that. Some of the potatoes that I chopped up for the mashed potatoes, I added in a little bit into that as well. If you guys don't have a slow cooker, I would recommend using your Instapot if you have one, to make these the pot roast inside of as well. If you want to, if you are pressed on time, you can always pressure cook the pot roast for about 2 hours, and it's gonna come out just like this, I promise you. So now I'm just plating everything up. I did my mashed potatoes, my pot roast, and my collard greens. I added this into the video, you know, because I know some of you guys like to see my plating and you like to see the process of how I do it. So I just try to make sure that I keep everything in its own section. I pressed down into the mashed potatoes to make, you know, like a little well, and I just poured some gravy in there, and this is the finished product, you guys. This was so good. My man went straight to sleep after he had this plate. So I hope you guys enjoy it. Let me know if you guys have any questions in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye.